Hey, what's going on, guys? Brady Joker here. Welcome back to a very unusual video here. This is weird. So I just recently visited Hershey Park, Six Flags Great Adventure, Knoebels, and my second trip to Cedar Point. And if you don't know what those are, then you probably shouldn't watch this video. But you probably do know what at least some of them are. It's an amusement park. Now, I've actually been a massive fan of roller coasters for a very long time, and you know what? I decided to make a list of my top 20 roller coasters. Okay, now before we get into the list, this is 100% subjective on my personal enjoyment of the ride. This is not like yeah, this had more forces than the other, this was more intense, it's going at the top. Not my thing. It's just also depends on the way the ride was running, you know, my personal experience with it and how I felt about it, you know, just all of that shebang. I do want to say a couple honorable mentions that just missed out on the top 20. We have Wild Eagle at Dollywood, Alpengeist at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, Valravn at Cedar Point, Nitro at Six Flags Great Adventure, and finally Griffon at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. Okay, now that we're done with that, let's get on to the top 20, starting with... Alright, so Mystery Mine, what a unique coaster. This is found at Dollywood in Tennessee, and it is actually one of the more popular rides at the park. So I recommend trying to get to this one pretty early on, because this one typically gets really long lines. But this ride is just so cool. You get your vertical uphill, which it was the first time I'd ever seen a vertical uplift, which was insane at the time. And it's just also really well themed. I really love themed rides. I think it adds so much to the ride experiences. The queue is really cool in this one. Yeah, it is just a little bit short, and the outside area is kind of just eh. Except for the final part in the outside, because wow, it's awesome. This ride is just really fun, really intense at times, and it's just all around a great like step up ride if you want to get into some like vertical uplifts, because it's not that tall of one, but it's just a really fun ride. Okay, so I might not love Millennium Force as much as I know a lot of people do. In fact, this is number 5 in Cedar Point. If we were to rank just Cedar Point rides, this would barely crack the top 5. It is number 5. You're gonna see 4 more rides at Cedar Point in this list. And it's just because after the amazing first hill, nothing happens. Sure, the 310-foot drop is really fun. It's intense, especially in the back. But then after that, you get 2 little hills and you don't get like any airtime on them. They're kind of pointless. They kind of just slow down the ride. And then you take some turns and then the ride's over. And it's just like, okay, it's fine. I like the music in the lobby. The music in the lobby is, or in the station, I guess. The music in the station is awesome. But I don't know, I've always found this ride to be overrated, because I hear a lot of people saying it's one of, if not the best at the park, and it's just like, did we ride the same thing? Because literally right down is Maverick, and then right next to that is, you know, Steel Vengeance. It's just like, no. Like, sure, the first drop here is really good, no matter where you sit. And I will admit, I did ride this in the back. The forces are a bit better in the back, but I mean, you shouldn't need to sit in one particular spot to get good forces. You should be able to get decent forces in every seat, and that just did not happen in the front and in the middle, which I rode all 3 of. It's just like, sorry. It's a great ride, don't get me wrong, it's really fun. You take the turns pretty fast, but okay, so Storm Runner at Hershey Park. This is a bit of a weird one to be at Hershey Park, because it really does not fit, you know, the candy theme at all. It's actually just a pretty intense coaster that's just really fun. So first of all, you get that amazing launch. You go 0 to, I believe, 76 in like 2.8 seconds, which is just like, wow, it's so much faster than you think. And then you take that top hat hill, and it's just like, oh my goodness. The only reason why this isn't much higher up on the list is because it, you know, is really short. The ride after the launch lasts maybe 40 seconds, if that. So the ride is incredibly short, but what you do get is really good to the point where, yeah, it's gonna make the list. I had a blast on this. The wait wasn't that bad. It also runs 2 carts at once, which is really good. You can load 2 carts on, which really good, you know, thinking there on the park's part. But yeah, it's just a really fun ride. The launch and the top hat are amazing, and I love it. Alrighty, Apollo's Chariot. Now, this and the next one are very similar. I just think I prefer the other one just because of recency bias and also the theming in the next one. Look, this ride is really good. It's the best at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, at least that I've ridden. I actually haven't been there since Pantheon opened, so I don't know. But yeah, no, pre-Pantheon, this was definitely the best ride in the park. It was, I think, my first B&M Hyper, which, you know, explains why it's one of my favorite coaster types. I think it's so much fun. The first couple hills here, you get some good airtime. I really like the restraints on this ride too. The restraints are really comfortable, this and the next ride. And this was also one where I got to ride it at nighttime, which was such an experience. It's such a good ride in the night. It is just kind of lackluster once you get over the first couple hills. It gets a little boring, but to be honest, it's not really boring. No coaster, in my opinion, is boring. So, yeah. And yet, Candemonium at Hershey Park barely beats it out. For one, I think the theming is just a lot better. It's a chocolate-themed ride. It's brown. It makes sense. The queue is really cool on this one too. You get the themed carts with Reese's Twizzler, I believe, and then also just the Hershey chocolate with the kisses. Really cool. And it's just right there at the opening of the park. It just looks so nice. You can see it when you pull in. It's just like, wow. You also get a really nice drop here. You know, you get a couple airtime moments, nothing crazy. You get that nice little turn right around the fountain, which is really pretty. But all around, it's a pretty good ride. Not pretty good. It's a great ride. I really like this one. It's awesome. I put it above Apollo's Chariot just because of recency bias. I just rode Candemonium. I haven't ridden Apollo's Chariot in a solid 3 years, so that probably has something to do with it. Okay, 15, Kingda Ka, the world's tallest roller coaster, standing at 456 feet. What a beast. This was the only ride that I have ever not put my hands up on. This is something that's very important for the rest of the list when we start to get into like the really good airtime, which is my favorite parts of roller coasters, is I put my hands up on every coaster I've ever ridden except this one. I'm sorry, it is just so intimidating. You think you're gonna be fine. I was, you know, a little bit, you know, adamant about riding this one. You know, I was the third cart of the day to ride it. So I get in line, you know, I'm a little bit nervous. I don't get nervous for coasters. And then I sit down and we start to pull it out of the station, and you just sit there waiting to launch. You're about to go 128 miles an hour in 3 seconds, and you're staring down 456 feet of track. It's pretty intimidating. My heart started racing a little bit. And then that launch, going from 0 to 128 in, 3 seconds? It's indescribable how intense it is. And then after the launch, it's like it's over. Anyone who has ever ridden this ride will tell you that the hill is the easiest part, because you launch, you blink, you're at the top of the coaster, you blink again, and you're at the bottom. And then you have a small little airtime hill that didn't really give you any airtime. It's just kind of there to beat Top Thrill. Also, by the way, this Top Thrill 2 was not open in this visit, unfortunately. Very sad. But yeah, it's Kingda Ka. It's a beast. It's a really fun ride. It's unlike anything I've ever ridden, obviously. It's a beast. I love it. Okay, so 14 is the biggest shocker on this list, is Phoenix at Knoebels. Now, overall, I think Knoebels was a pretty good park. You know, it had a very nice little city fair feel to it. And then Phoenix came out of the blue and was like, hey, I'm gonna rock your world. The airtime on this coaster is insane. Unmatched, almost. And it's because of one thing, the restraint. You have a bar, right? But it's not a lap bar. It kind of is, but not really. It's connected to the coaster, but it doesn't come down all the way. When I sat down, it has like a limit. It can't go down past a certain point. And there was a solid 6 inches between me and the bar. 6! So yeah, this one gave me some crazy airtime. Felt like I was gonna fly out many points. Only reason it's not top 10 is because the layout is a little bit uninspired, a little bit boring. Nothing crazy with the layout, at least. And honestly, if it weren't for the restraint, the coaster wouldn't really be anything special. But because of the restraint and the airtime that you get, it is easily one of my favorite coasters I've ever ridden. All right, number 13, Jersey Devil. Okay, now I understand some people might not like this ride. How? I rode this thing in the back twice. I was only supposed to ride it once, but then when we pulled back into the station, this is a never-ending like roller coaster. Like, it does not stop at the station. It just keeps rolling. You get off and they load in one cart at a time because it's a one-seater. It sits one person per cart, which is insane. So I pull in after riding it for the first time and I'm like, oh my God, that was amazing. I get out and they need a single rider. And single rider. I hop back in the cart and I get on it again for a second ride, and it's just as intense as the first. That first hill in the back, it flings you over going Mach 3, it feels like. It's a fast coaster, it's intense, it's whippy. That long corkscrew in the middle is amazing. It's such a good ride. I love this one so much. Definitely check it out if you're at Six Flags Great Adventure. Okay, this might be a bit of a controversial exclusion of the top 10, but Wildcats Revenge is at number 12. Look, the only reason it's not higher is because there are more RMCs really similar to this one that are just better than this one in my opinion. We're gonna see 2 more very similar RMCs that are just much better later in this list, and that's why it's not in the top 10, because there are just better rides that are just similar to this, but this is just a downgrade in my opinion. And I wanted to put more unique, more, standout coasters in my top 10. But anyways, with that being said, this ride is fantastic. It's the newest RMC, it's the newest ride at Hershey Park, and it's my second favorite. It's an amazing ride, good airtime, good everything. It's an RMC. What do you expect? If you've ridden any of them, which we're going to talk about some of the other popular ones later on, it's exactly what you would expect. It's just, in my opinion, the worst one out of the 3 big ones I've ridden, I think. At number 11, I'm so sad to leave this one out, but Gatekeeper is barely missing out. This is at Cedar Point, right in the front of the park, and I love Gatekeeper. Whenever someone tells me like, oh, is your favorite rides like always super intense? Like, can't you just have fun on like a fun little ride? This is that ride. Because this ride is not intense. It's not intense at all. It is the smoothest, most graceful ride you will ever ride in your entire life, and yet I have so much fun on it. That like corkscrew leaning into the dive loop on the first hill is so good, bro. It catches me off guard every time and I love it. And after that, it's just like such a fast, fun coaster. It's just amazing. I've only been on 2 B&M wing coasters, and this is definitely better than Eagle because 1, it's way longer, and 2, it's just better. You get better inversions on this one. It's a great ride. Definitely don't skip on this one at all. If you are scared of it, don't be. It's smooth. You get like that really tight vest restraint, which is really good. And the line also moves pretty quick because since there's 2 sides on a wing coaster, you go 2 different paths. It makes it really fast, I promise. All right, into the top 10. These are the big dogs. We have Magnum XL 200 at Cedar Point. This is the OG Hyper Coaster. If you don't know what a Hyper Coaster is, it's basically a coaster that's over 200 and less than 300 feet. And this was the very first Hyper Coaster ever built. And yet, still, to this day, it's one of my favorites, if not my favorite. I'm trying to think. I actually don't know. Anyways, this is just such an incredible ride. And in my opinion, the hills, the first two hills, are the worst parts of the ride. Easily my least favorite parts. The hills are really tame, actually. You don't get that much forces on them. But then you take the turns at the back and then it starts. You get like 4 just camel humps back to back to back with some of the best airtime you can ever get. It's intense, it's whippy, it's so fun, and you even go through a tunnel on the last one. That solid like 4 humps at the back of the ride is why it's in the top 10. It's so much fun. It catches me off guard every time with how good it is. I love it. Also, Magnum always has like a really short wait, like 30 minutes or less to get on this. Come on. Peak ride at Cedar Point. Might be a hot take because I don't know if people love this one as much as I do, but I love this ride. Always try to ride this one. I also have pictures of me on the ride. I'll put them up on screen now. My family was waiting, and we stayed at the lighthouse, the Point Lighthouse, whatever, campground right next to Cedar Point. And I told them I was getting on Magnum, and they were taking pictures of me while I was hitting the turns at the back. So it's awesome, man. I love this ride. Alrighty, Twisted Timbers at number 9. King's Dominion, is this the first King's Dominion ride I'm talking about? I believe so. King's Dominion, for the most part, is a pretty good park. It's just not my favorite. I bet if they didn't take out Volcano, I would think way more highly of it, but I never got to ride it, unfortunately. Volcano looks awesome, though. Personally, it probably would have been my favorite B&M invert. Is it a B&M invert? I know it's an invert, but I don't know if it's B&M. But personally, I will only talk about one B&M invert on this list, and it was Alpengeist back in the honorable mentions. I'm just not a fan of B&M inverts. I think they're kind of tame. If you don't sit in the front, you're kind of just staring at a box in front of you. It's all right. But yeah, I would have loved to ride it. Anyways, back to Twisted Timbers, which honestly could have been higher if it weren't for the fact I haven't ridden it in about 2 years. But it is still just an excellent RMC coaster. It's not the best one. We'll get to that one later. But it's really fun, good inversions, good airtime. Just it's an RMC. It's amazing. I love it. Next one. Alrighty, Hagrid's at Islands of Adventure at Universal Studios. It's so good, bro. It's so good. I don't even want to really talk about this ride because if you have not ridden this ride, there are actual spoilers that I can give you that will ruin the ride. Because if you go into this thing blind like I did, thinking it was going to be a small little family coaster that would be really fun, but not, anything crazy. Oh my God! You're in for a ride because there are elements of every coaster in this except a massive drop. That's the only thing you don't get here. It is so good. The theming is incredible. I can't even talk about it. I can't talk about it. I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't ridden it and you're planning on going to Universal soon. If you are, make sure you get to this ride early. This or Velocicoaster, make sure you get to those early because those lines are really atrocious, especially this one though. This line's ride, if you get to this ride and the wait time is an hour, you're lucky. You're lucky if it's an hour or even 45 minutes. You're lucky. Alright, this might be a bit of a controversial exclusion of the top 5, but Maverick at Cedar Point is one of the best Intamin coasters ever built. It's not the best, but it's up there. Which is kind of insane when you're looking at the ride from an outside perspective. Which might be why this ride somehow gets the longest lines at Cedar Point, and it's not even close. This and Valravn are the two most, you're gonna probably wait here for about an hour every time you get to it. This ride doesn't look all that intense. It looks kind of easy. And then you get on it and you're going, It's intense, bro. You get the launch uphill kind of launch. You get the fast uphill. You get the curved inwards drop, which if there was one thing I could wish for this ride that would make it in the top 5 is I wish that hill was just a little bit taller. Would have been so much better. Anyways, then you get the surprise second launch, which is so good, but for some reason it slows you down not too much after, which doesn't really kill the momentum, but it, you know, kind of feels like the launch was like the force and the speed of the launch didn't need to be as fast, because then you slow down like right after you come out of the dark area. And then you go down by the water and it's just like, oh my god, this ride is a masterpiece. But again, oh my god, the line is always so long. So because I was at the campground, we could get into the park an hour early. And on our second day, this trip, we got to Millennium Force, knocked that out, and at 9:15, keep in mind, we got in at 9, general public opens at 10. We go straight to Maverick, stand there. We get to like the sign. There's already some people waiting for Maverick, so we get to like the sign. When the park opens at 10, oh my god, I couldn't even see the end of the line. And that was before the general public opened. It was, the entire area was a line for Maverick. I don't understand why this ride gets the longest lines, but it does. So just be warned if you're going to Cedar Point. Knock this ride out really early on, because 1, it's amazing, and 2, longest lines at the park, easily. Alright, number 6 might be a bit controversial, but Sky Rush is so good. First of all, the airtime is amazing, okay? You get some nuts airtime. And honestly, the back was, in my opinion, the worst seat that I rode. I rode it in the back for the first time, and I kind of got off a little underwhelmed. And then the next day, I rode it in the front. And I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And then I rode it in the middle. And I was like, this is still amazing. Why was the back the worst seat? I don't know, it was weird. Anyways, everyone complains, oh, the restraints, they suck. Well, guess what? They changed them, and they are so comfortable. You don't feel a thing when you're riding. You just get all the airtime in the world. Such an intense ride, so much fun. I could ride this thing all the time. See, that's why it's higher than Wildcats Revenge, is if I were to re-ride one of them right now, I would probably pick Sky Rush, because I would also pick Twisted Timbers or Steel Vengeance over Wildcats Revenge. So it's like, Sky Rush is just better. It's unique, it's fun, the airtime is insane, it's amazing. Okay, entering the top 5, we have the Lightning Rod at Dollywood. The world's fastest wooden coaster launches you up the hill, and it is... Unfortunately, I haven't ridden this ride in about 3 years, so unfortunately I can't remember it all that well. All I know is that every time I've ridden this, it is so intense, always such a fun ride. I love it. It's just speed. It's a speed coaster. I love it. And then you come around back over the mountain at the end, and you ride back down to the station. It's like, wow, what a hidden gem, because the entire ride is hidden behind the hill. You aren't expecting anything crazy. I don't know what they're doing. Apparently they're changing the launch uphill, which if they are, they're gonna severely nerf the ride, because that launch takes you so off guard with how fast it is. It's amazing. Alrighty, number 4, another one that's getting a nerf, but not with the ride, with the name, Intimidator 305, or what is it now gonna be, Project 305. Apparently the license with the Intimidator name is expiring this year, and so they have to change it, which really sucks, because Intimidator 305 is kind of the perfect name, seeing as it's the most intense coaster I've ever been on. The only roller coaster I've ever been on that has truly almost made me black out. Very close. Never like actually lost conscious, but completely couldn't see for a solid 2 seconds, but could still breathe, and I was still conscious. And again, anyone who has actually been on this ride can tell you that the hill is not the worst part of the ride, or the most intense. No. You launch up 305 feet into the air, and yes, you launch. It's a fast uplift. It's crazy. You drop, and then going 90 miles an hour, you take the sharpest turn I have ever been on in my life. And that's the hardest part of the ride, because you take that turn going 90 right after a big hill, and the forces are so extreme. That's when most people will black out, because I hear stories of people blacking out all the time. My sister blacked out. It's intense. The ride is fun, it's amazing, it's intimidating, and it's so fun. Easily the best ride at King's Dominion. Do not skip it unless you hate intense rides. If that's the case, that's probably why the line is always so short there. I've been to King's Dominion twice, and each time it's pretty much been a walk-on for this ride, so it's intimidating. Alrighty, number 3, the big top 3. The only new ride to make it in my top 5 with this year's trip, El Toro at Six Flags Great Adventure. Oh my God. I don't care about all the accidents. I don't care about the derailments that happened on this ride. It is a masterpiece from start to finish. You get single-handedly one of, if not the best first drop in the back row. One of, maybe the best first drop, because arms up, kind of like I was saying with Jersey Devil, but just a little bit better. Actually feels like you are flying out of your seat. And then it's just airtime after airtime. And then it's just a turn super fast and intense and super fun. Some dude's hat flew off on the ride. I don't know why they let him have his hat on, but some dude's hat flew off. And then you get that one camel hump towards the end where it's like you're starting to lose a bit of momentum, and then all of a sudden it's whoosh, and it's like, oh my God, bro. El Toro, I can't even describe how good this ride is. It's amazing. It's El Toro. It's amazing. Alrighty, Velocicoaster. Was my top 1 until I rode my number 1 last year, which I'm sure you can probably guess at this point. It's not a hot take what my number 1 is. Anyways, Velocicoaster is so good, man. You get the theming, you get the launches, you get the top hat, you get the corkscrews you get the one corkscrew right over the water. That roll is so intense and good. I mean, like, so many people are talking about how good this ride is, and it makes sense. I got off of Maverick on this ride at this trip at Cedar Point. I got off Maverick with my sister, and I was talking to my sister. I was like, yeah, no, Maverick, really amazing ride, but Velocicoaster is Maverick but better in every way. And some dude in front of us walking off the ride turned around and said, yeah, I agree. Swear, not making that up. It's true. This ride is just Maverick, but better in every way. You get the taller top hat hill. You get 2 launches, real launches. You get theming. The queue is really cool. You're probably gonna have to wait like an hour and a half if you want to ride it, but what are you gonna do? It's one of the best coasters in the world. Second best I've ever been on, and take a wild guess at what number 1 is. Steel Vengeance is the best coaster in the world, and even people who have ridden up to 600, 700 coasters all around the world will still tell you that Steel Vengeance is the best coaster in the world. For me, for example, I've ridden 79, that's it. And yet there are people who swear, I know this because I've seen YouTube videos, some dude has been all over the world in Europe, over 600 coasters on his list, and this is his favorite. It's not hard to see why. It holds the world record for the most amount of airtime, which is my favorite part of coasters. You get an amazing first hill, and not only that, you can experience this ride in any seat and still have it be the best coaster in the world. Any seat, the front, the middle, or the back, any of it is like, this is the best coaster. Another great thing about it is it's long. You get what you get with this ride. It's a long coaster. It's like 2 minutes long. It's like 2.5. That's bananas. I have now ridden this thing a total of 10 times in the course span of 2 trips. Last year, I think I rode it 4. This year, I rode it 6 times. So, I think I have a problem. And also, I know a lot of people complain about the waits. The longest I've ever had to wait for this one is an hour, which is, you know, it's not the best, but for the best roller coaster in the world, I would wait 2 hours for this ride. It's peak, it's amazing, it's Steel Vengeance. Alrighty, and that's my top 20 coasters. This is a really random video. I've never talked about roller coasters or anything like this, but they fascinate me. I think roller coasters are really cool. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this and you want me to make a top 10 worst roller coaster, that'll be a really boring video, but hey, I'm also working on a new project. I'm not gonna get into it. You'll know by the end of the summer what this big video project is. Anyways, I will also soon be ranking every Best Animated Feature Oscar winner very soon, probably in the next 2 weeks that'll be out. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this different video. If you guys did, make sure you like and subscribe, of course, if you want to, I don't care. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Hope you have a great rest of your day, evening, or night. See ya.